Okay, this is part 2 of my story. This story is simply entitled The Pieces. This story was written partially as the pieces of this log cabin were all over the place, big piles of them out in the yard, and it was written before I had torn down my other home and before I started to build, just with the pieces of the log cabin everywhere, knowing the work that was in front of me. But you also have to know that this story was written when my life itself was in pieces. So this story is not only about the log cabin, but about trying to restore my own life. So let me start with my story, The Pieces. As I sit here almost overwhelmed by the pieces all around me, I am reminded on how far we've come. Sometimes it looks like there's no end in sight, but sometimes when I close my eyes, I can see all the pieces exactly where they need to be. As I look way back, I can see how things were leading up to this point, even before I knew I was going to build a log cabin. I think in life my favorite thing is to give life to what is broken, to take what is old and make it new again, to bring back things that are almost lost to time. Somehow I feel a deep connection in this place. By place, I mean state of mind. As I work, it feels almost as if someone is feeding me the knowledge of how it was done. I really can't explain it other than it feels like I have someone with me at all times giving me step-by-step instructions. I have shared in the past that I have a reading disability. Kind of sounds funny coming from this point, doesn't it? This video took a lot of editing because I've never sat and read anything. Today what I'm doing is tackling the biggest fear of my life, and that is reading in front of people. I've never read a single book. I've written all these stories. I've told myself my entire life I can't do it. And it's time to stop it. It's time to stop and to push through my biggest fears. I've always been the guy that can use his hands, but I've never saw myself as a writer or as a reader or as someone to inspire other people, and it's time I stop and tackle my fears. So let me finish my story. I have shared in the past that I have a reading disability. I can't pick up a book and learn how to do anything. To be totally honest, to this day, I have never read a single book from cover to cover. I hid this most of my life, but somehow what was my weakness has become my strength. The person that once felt dumb and embarrassed feels guided by wisdom. It's kind of hard to explain, but very welcomed. As most of you know, I have strong faith. I can feel things to my core. I spend a lot of time alone, and I speak to God often. You could call this prayer, but for me, it's just a conversation. So one day, after writing the story on the train, coming home from New York City, and on my way home from church, I was kind of upset with God. All of the pieces fell into place so perfectly. I was so overwhelmed with joy that the creator of everything would ask me to help him. I just said, God, why? Why me? Why would you use me in this way, knowing my disability? He said without hesitation, because you can't do it without me. I've somehow learned that I can't do life without him. Somehow, the thing that I love the most about life is also his favorite too. To take what is weak and or broken and make it new again. To take someone who has no life or love left and give them so much they can't help but share it. To look deeper than the surface to see a bigger plan. To pick up those pieces and start rebuilding. To make something beautiful out of what some might see as lost to time. Over the last 2 years, I have built the log cabin that's here on my YouTube channel, primarily following the vision that the painter had painted for me, trying to recreate every little detail exactly as I saw, with no shortcuts. I'm talking 10 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. When I didn't know, he did. When I wasn't strong enough, he was. When I wanted to quit, he was the voice that said, keep walking. We're almost there. Mostly alone, he is the rock in which I build. Not only the cabin, but in life. Thank you for letting me share that. I hope, what I hope here is to just inspire someone. Not really to go build a log cabin. To live life. Life is so precious and it's so short. I hope to just inspire someone to get a vision of what life should look like. Not my vision, your own. But when you get that vision, grasp it and go. And learn that, we have a responsibility. These stories are not just stories of some guy building a log cabin. They're stories of faith, and tackling things that are so much bigger than we are is where it's at. I'm telling you what, I am absolutely living the best days of my life. So that one was called The Painter, and I've got one more left, and it's a 2-pager, and it's called In the Arms of the Carpenter. So In the Arms of the Carpenter is next, and I think I'm going to go ahead and take the time and just record that now and post them in 3 separate parts. But anyway, thanks for coming along.